Confession, wasn't expecting to do this video so soon, but after getting all the feedback from the first mentorship video on having a healthy mentor relationship, this one had to follow up. So if you're here, you might be realizing that you've experienced an unhealthy mentor relationship, and that's okay. We're gonna move through it. You might be in the what do I do now stage. Completely normal place to be at. You may also be wondering if you're an unhealthy mentor, you may be finding yourself in the 5 stages of grief if you know that you've experienced it. Also, entirely okay. First time that I experienced what I would say toxic mentor relationship, I definitely went through the 5 stages. Denial was, it had to be just me who was getting this type of response or who was receiving this type of behavior. Everybody else seems happy. Nobody else felt that way. Maybe I'm making it up. Maybe I'm just, overly sensitive. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. Maybe I had blocks that I wasn't aware of. And then we moved on to anger. And it was like, how dare she? How dare she do this to me? How dare other people not talk about it? And then it turned on to myself because it was the, I've been through abusive relationships. Why didn't I pick this up? Progress from there to bargaining. And it's like, well, if only I noticed this, then I wouldn't have wasted so much time, or I wouldn't have wasted so much money. Or, if I had set my boundaries differently, maybe this wouldn't have happened. And yes, there's something to be said for expressing your boundaries and your needs. But regardless of where you are, we have to process it. We can't just go through the sliding doors of what if we change this or what if we change that, because this is where we are now. And that's the only way to move forward. And from there, you might have depression. For me, this just actually looked like a little bit of withdrawal, where like I disconnected from the community a little bit, from my business a little, and I just wanted to like go backwards and sit with how did I actually want to show up? What lessons did I get from this? How is this affecting me? And honestly, it took my business longer to heal than I did, which is something that I had to adapt to and move through. And finally, you get to acceptance, which is where I'd like everybody to get to. For me, there were some beautiful gifts that actually came out of a really pricey and not so pleasant experience. And the main one is that I can talk about this, that I can bring this to the surface, I can shine the light on it, and I can start educating people on really what a healthy relationship looks like, a healthy mentor relationship. And we can start, moving out of the cycles of passing it on, because if you aren't aware that it's an unhealthy relationship, you're apt to do the same things to your client, and then they're apt to do the same things to their client, and it creates this cycle that we don't really want. We just need to reflect on what we're doing a little bit differently. So if you haven't already watched the video on what a healthy mentor relationship looks like, I would suggest you pause this and go do that. And if you've been the unhealthy mentor, we'll talk about that some in another video. This one's likely going to be long enough. But acknowledging it's great. Know that growth is an essential part for all of us, so it can change. And you can still apply some of these things we're going to talk about to your relationship with your past clients, so they can get a little help moving through the healing process. You're not going to be the person to take them through this, because they need to go through it with somebody else that feels safe, and you're not going to be that person. But you can still be helpful in all of this. So quick check-in. Let's talk about the health of your relationships, I guess, basically. So I'm going to have a few questions, and I'm just going to go through them carefully. So in one word, describe your relationship with mentor. And if you want to run through these questions for like all of the mentors you've ever had, great. If you want to do just your last one or just one that seems a little suspect, also great. And in that one word, I don't want you to talk about what they helped you to accomplish or what milestones you achieved with them or how much you sold or how much you made. It's none of those things. It's, in one word, what did that relationship look like? How did they make you feel? How did you feel when you got off a call with them? Or how did you feel when your time ended? if your immediate response is you were really glad that your time ended, that's something to explore. Okay, and so taking this a little deeper, were you excited to speak to them? Or if you knew you had to, get on the call or message them, was there any stress or anxiety? Was there any shame or judgment coming up? What were the emotions that came up when you had to speak to them one-to-one? And from there, did you feel like you could speak to them as an equal? And this doesn't mean speaking to them disrespectfully. This doesn't mean like popping into their inbox at all hours of all days if that wasn't something that your contract allows. But you should never feel like your mentor is looking down on you or seeing you as beneath you, and there should be that, equal respect. And I'm going to end this actually with a question that a therapist once asked me. In a few words, what does this person bring into your life? And this one's always like the aha moment for me. I was asked this about my love life because Scorpio and Venus. Of course it was. And the things that I answered at the time were like drama and anxiety and tension and confusion, because it was all of those things. And the person brought brought joy into my life as well. But the first things that came out of my mouth were like, oh, not so great. Yes, you make me happy and, you help me find clarity, but there's also these things. And if your answers are predominantly on the negative spectrum, that's an indicator that there's likely some healing and some separation needed. Okay, so now that you've done that little assessment on the health of your mentor relationship, we're going to talk about what actually to do to heal it. You just got a little hint, and that's the separation. So the first thing you have to do is pull the cord, and this is both physically and energetically. You have to cut off contact. Doesn't have to be forever. It can be polite. It can be nice. It can be gentle and respectful. It can just be muting them on social media so they don't have to show up in your feed and trigger you every single time. It can be just, sending them a note if you're still in work with them of, I would either like to pause this, or I actually think I am done with this commitment. I'll keep paying you because that's what the contract says, and we're just going to be done. In general, you just need to stop engaging with their energy. Stop reinfecting yourself. Stop triggering yourself. Be done with their energy. So once you do all the physical steps, you can actually clear yourself of their energy. And you may need to do this a couple times. Entirely okay. So we want to pull the energetic cords. And I'm very specific in saying pulling, not cutting, because if you're cutting, you're going to leave a root. And if there's a root, the same energetic vibration can grow back, or there just could be a root there kind of like festering and getting infected. I don't like it. So I pull cords out. And if you've never done this before, you need a little bit more guidance. You just want to go into meditation, or you can go into quantum space if you're familiar with quantum exercises, or heart work space, as you may call it, and ask to be shown all energetic cords that are connecting you and this mentor. You could probably do this from Akashic space as well. I usually just go into the quantum heart work. And once you see the cords, I want you just to notice, where are they? How do they look? I personally like to also look at meridians. So I'll just kind of take note and see like what meridians of the body are they on, and notice if there's any physical symptoms that have been associated with that. If it's chakras, you definitely want to take note, because different chakras can tell you different things about the relationship. So if somebody is corded to you in the throat, it could be that they're trying to affect what you say or what you're bringing forth into being. Throats where I manifest from. And it's not to say that there aren't healthy cords from the throat, or from any of the next ones I'm going to talk about, but it's just something to be aware of. Solar plexus is one that I generally am really cautious about. I see this in all sorts of abusive situations. I've had it from abusive situations where people are literally cording to your solar plexus to control you or control your beliefs. I don't really like anything there at all. I don't like anything at any of the lower chakras, to be honest. With the sacral, they could be trying to tap into your creative energy. I have seen this one in unhealthy mentor relationships where it's like kind of they're just sucking the energy out of you. And if you're feeding into them, you may get some return, but you're often just feeding them in their career. And your energy should be going to you and your life and your career. And the same thing with the root. They could be taking energy from you or adjusting what feels safe and doesn't feel safe to you. And these aren't really things that I like people touching. If somebody that you're very close to romantically or friendship-wise, and it feels good, it feels safe, and it's, probably some sort of consent in those chords, fine. But that is not really where I want majority of chords. So I want you to also take a look at the appearance of them. What color are they? Are they thin? Are they thick? Just kind of take your own opinions here. And once you've examined the chord, once you've figured out everything you're going to know from it, you grab it firmly as close as you can to your body and just pull it out of yourself. You probably need to take a moment with that because it will likely stir things up in you. Completely okay. And so from there, I like to look at the root so that I can see what's actually happening underneath the surface. I've pulled it with family members, like struggling family members, but family members where the root has been very like tangled and black and very clearly not healthy. If you want a new chord to appear with somebody, pulling the chord works just as well, and we can clear that relationship and let it start from new energy. In this situation, you may not want that, and that's fine. So you pull it, you look at it, and then you're going to ask that it be sealed up with light, or you're going to seal it up with light so there's no wound, there's nothing for anything to come back into necessarily. You're filling the void with positive energy. I usually ask Archangel Michael for this, or my guides. If that feels good, you can do it. I like having angels on my side. Feels good, you can do it, feels right to you. And then we want to do the same for your mentor. So we want to pull their end of the cord as well and take a look at it. And then as you do this, you're going to have a little chat with them. If there's anything that you want to acknowledge, you can. If you can forgive them, you can say this. It's okay if you can't at this moment because you need to be disconnected from them. You need to have that separation before you can really start healing. So it's okay if you can't immediately forgive. There's nothing to be ashamed of for that. And then you want to state your new boundaries. And it might be, I don't want to be courted to you. It might be, you have to behave in these ways. You can't speak to me in these ways. Whatever it is, you state them. And if it feels difficult, challenging, any of, the above, to pull the cord from her or from him, then we just need to affirm that it's our energy and we are the only ones that have the power to control it, and they have to release it. So I would take a break after doing all of that because you're not going to want to do all of this in one day. That's going to probably be enough for your energetic body because you're going to need that, to process through your body. And you may even want a few days to make sure that you stay clear before kind of going back to explore. So the next thing that we're going to do after that is you have to take a look at the emotional wounds, which you may not want to do, and I understand that. But this is where it gets a little bit more interesting because often when we're working with this type of mentor, they give us wounds that are only really super easy for them to remove, or only easiest for them to remove. They can be removed, but it's, something that relates to them. And it could be that they tell you just simply that you're a failure or that you're not open to new ideas. It could be that they tell you that you're not coachable or that you're not able to have a business or do the thing or whatever. Whatever it is, it's getting implanted into you so that there's some piece of you that believes it's true. It's not true. I feel very confident to do the carte blanche. It's just not true. So we're going to unearth them. And here's a few questions that you can explore if you want to journal, if you want to go into meditative space. But with all of these questions, we kind of want to go down, like snowball through the questions. So it's, how did they make you feel? What did they tell you? And what was your response? Like, how did you feel to that? Did you feel like you would never be a success? Did you feel like you had to do more? Did you feel like you had to listen to, very specifically to advice, and if you strayed off that path, you would never get anywhere? So figure out what that is. And then how is that not true? Because it's not. So we want to get even if it's super obvious, how is it not true? How did this trigger you? What fear did that bring up after it triggered you? Why do you fear that? What's the worst thing that can happen? And like, as you can see, we're kind of snowballing. We're building off of each question, and we want to go as far down the rabbit hole as we can so that we can, it's kind of like CBT, where we can just show ourselves, hey, this isn't actually true. And we're just letting it go. So I want you to write everything around this down and everything that you felt about it down. And if you would like, you can burn it or something afterwards. But I want you to then actually grab, this is my favorite kind of fun ritual, and maybe it won't be fun for you. Some people have an aversion to it, I will say. But grab some toilet paper. And I want you to write down on each square one of the main themes. You're obviously not going to write out everything they made you feel, but maybe it's like shame, judgment, just failure in general. And then you're going to flush them. If you want to do it one by one, you can. You can also burn everything. I'm just a sucker for the melodramatics of literally flushing away somebody's energetic shit. Why not? And after that, you're not done. Then you're going to picture yourself standing under a waterfall of, I like pink light. You could probably use green just as well. White and gold would work. But you're standing under this waterfall of light, and it's just gently, taking all of this away. It's taking all of these beliefs that they implanted in you away, taking any little seeds of that away, taking anything connected with them away, and it's just filling you up with love, filling you back up with the core of who you are and what your mission is and what your path is, filling you back up with clarity. And you may even want to come back to this waterfall anytime that you see your old mentor, or hear their name, or feel whatever it is, that emotion that they connected to you, just so that we can keep moving it out. And there are other things that you can do as well to keep helping this process. So you could use Reiki and have that to be cleared. You can use flower essences to help release some of those emotions. You could use EFT to get to like the root of some of those emotions. You could use essential oils to create, I like to call them scent triggers. So it's, if I feel this way because of them, then I'm going to go grab this scent and it's going to make me feel the opposite so that I can just start using that scent to make me feel the way that I want to feel. You probably could benefit from doing a physical detox to help clear everything out of your body. And you could do quantum work like 2-pointing or other work just to help release it. We don't have time to explore all of those right now, but starting place. And then you're also going to really want to bring on support. You can't do this alone. You're going to want a hermit, but you're not an island. And it's not really helpful for you to stay alone dwelling in this. So very essential that you get support with it. Could be a friend, could be a therapist, could be a support group. It could be, your mastermind peers, could be a healer, could be all of the above, but you want to get external eyes and energy on it because your blinders are still going to be on, and we want somebody else to reflect what's different and what's changing. I personally used a Reiki healer. She specializes in social work and psychology, so it was like getting the best of both worlds. And she could do Reiki on my business because, as I mentioned before, while I needed the healing, my business did too. And my business seemed to, could be because my business is a projector, but my business took a bit longer, or maybe it was just more honest about what was happening. It needed clearings, it needed cord pullings, it needed new energy filtered in. And for a while it was like this little cloud over my business, and I was feeling it because I felt stuck a little bit, and it was just kind of looking at things like, not really in a place where I should feel this stuck, but I do. And it was that, like, the reverb coming back of all of this has to process out, and I need to have support coming from somewhere else because I didn't have the energy to put into it, and it needed extra energy, it needed extra attention. I'll actually drop my favorite Reiki healer, the one that I used, in the comments or below if you want to explore that avenue. If you've worked with me, you probably already know her, since I tend to incorporate her into a lot of my one-to-one packages. But essentially, we need different perspectives on the healing, and we need different ways for it to feel gentle. You may have an idea of what types of things already work for you, and it's just a matter of how can you incorporate this in so that everything fits together. So know that all of this takes time. It's not going to be you sit down in one day and you magically feel better, because you might even have PTSD. But essentially, just like any other betrayal or violation, your body, your mind, or spirit can interpret all of this as a trauma. We don't expect to overcome a trauma in a day. It's okay to feel the full depths of it. It's okay to let yourself acknowledge that it's there. Just get support going through it. We want to release it. And know that we also don't want that to be our final mentor relationship. It's very similar to, one of my therapists was leaving at one point, and it was right after I'd been through an abusive relationship. And she gave me, you have 3 months to find a new therapist. And if you don't, it's, that you're not healing because you're not looking at what happened. And to me, I feel like this is in the same way. We don't want our final experience to be the bad one, because then it sits with us and our body doesn't know how to really energetically open up to something else, or how to even attract it in. We want to just completely replace that energy with something that is much more aligned with us. Okay, so if you have questions about any of this, feel free to ask. There's no silly questions. There's no stupid questions. There's no judgment here. What you're asking is likely going to help somebody else. Feel free to ask anything. And of course, if you want to hear more about healthy relationships, healthy mentor relationships, transformative mentor relationships, you can subscribe, because we're going to be talking about this a lot, and probably a lot more than I am expecting to. So be gentle with yourself. Just let it all go. Bye.